This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, profession advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or management. This podcast may contain adult themes, so parental discretion is advised. Welcome to the Modern Titus 2 Women podcast. As part of our mentoring role, we seek resources and support designed to help women thrive. I'm thrilled to introduce today's incredible guest, Amber Johnson. Amber is the inspiring host of BEEB channel, which stands for Blessing, Edifying, and encouraging others to live their best lives. But Amber's influence doesn't just stop there. She's also a dedicated blogger and a full-time caregiver. Today, we're diving deep into her journey and the powerful role she plays as a caregiver. So welcome, Amber. I'm very happy and delighted
Thank you for having
to have you in my presence today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Right. So, I've also been a caretaker when my late husband was ill. He had cancer. So I understand how it can be very emotional to be taking care of somebody so close to you. So I want to find out what are the emotional and physical challenges that comes with caregiving, and how do you manage them?
That is such a great question. I feel like when it comes to the emotional aspect, it's just so much that's encompassed in that. But one of the main things that I've experienced is this lingering feeling of ambiguous grief. That's how I can best describe it, which is grief that you experience when someone is still alive, but it's just like you're just missing the version of them that you anticipated, that you thought you would have, like in terms of his golden years, who I thought he would be, the things that I thought that we would do as a family. So it's just a lot of like that lingering kind of chronic grief in that way. And as far as the mental aspect, it can be grueling because there's a lot of critical thinking involved. You have to be able to manage all of the tasks that need to be completed, and you also have to make time for yourself and just keep everything organized.
Yes, I can relate to that also. You know, as you correctly say, there are things and plans that you had, with that person. And in my case, we're planning to retire and what we're gonna do and where we're gonna go, and everything just changed. So I can understand. I suppose you had to put some of your dreams and career goals on hold to take care of him. So I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of changes, a lot of adjustment to make. So as you touched on, the other question that I was going to ask is about how to maintain your own mental health and support. As you support this person, how do you maintain your mental health? What do you do?
One of the greatest things that I gifted to myself in this season is therapy. Now, some people might be saying, oh, God is our wonderful counselor, right? Of course, read your Bible, pray, but it's both and. So you can go seek help. That's not offensive to God. He knows that you're going through something and that there are people that He created and He placed in those particular jobs to help you. So it's okay to go seek help. Another thing is, it doesn't have to be a catastrophe. You don't have to wait until you're falling completely apart to go
Right.
seek this help for your mental health. It's just as important as your physical health. And I liken it to a car. You don't wait till the car breaks down, right? You go do maintenance on that car. So that's what therapy is for your mind. It helps you to maintain and be able to manage your emotions, as well as reframe things that you might be thinking in isolation, and then you could take it to the therapist and say, what do you think about this? And they say, well, have you considered this? So it's not to fix you, it's just to help you to have that outlet and just manage what you're going through.
I agree with you, and I come from a Caribbean background. I'm
Mm-hmm.
Jamaican. I was born in Jamaica before I relocated here.
Mm-hmm.
So, Caribbean people have this thing that, we don't want to go nowhere near psychiatrists, anything to do with our head, because there's a stigma that,
Mm-hmm.
you're crazy or something like that. And there's just a stigma that goes with it. So a lot of Caribbean people, wait until it reaches a very critical stage, and then they find themselves that they have to be, put into an institution or something because they
Mm.
can no longer cope. But if they had, taken the time and just go to speak to somebody, because these people, as you correctly say, God has, yes, we can pray, we can fast, we can do all of these things. But as you correctly say, God has given persons with a skill set and the know-how to assist us in times of disaster, in times of grief that we can't manage. Not everybody can manage. Some people grieve, the whole life for somebody that they lost, so we need to be cognizant of that, and to be cognizant of what we can manage as an individual also,
Yes,
so
that's
as
so
you could,
important.
yes, yes. So that was very, as you said, profound what you was talking about that. So, as we touched on faith already. So I know for me, faith played a lot in my being able to overcome, because I know I'm gonna see my loved one again, because
Mm-hmm.
we were of the same faith. So
Mm-hmm.
all this is just temporary. This life on earth is temporary. So he
Mm-hmm.
knew and I knew that. So we knew that you know, we're gonna meet again. But for you, what does faith, what role does faith play for you in this journey that you're now on?
I think that it has been invaluable to know that I can like look to God and say, this is what I'm going through. I can pray, I can put on my praise and worship music, I can read the Bible and just learn about his character and how he feels about suffering, how he feels about sorrow. And he's somebody that's well acquainted. So it's not foreign to him what we're going through, because he gave up his own son. So he knows what that is, and
Mhm.
because it tells us in Hebrews 4:15 that he is someone who can empathize with what we went through. He knows that himself, so we don't have to feel as though we can't bring that to God. And that's something that a lot of people have a misconception about, that you can't bring those feelings to God. But if you look at Elijah, if you look at Jonah, if you look at Job, if you look at Moses, all of these people said, look, I'm going through this, I'm depressed, I'm kind of downtrodden about this. David of all people, oh my goodness, I love the Psalms because he's like, listen, I'm going through it. You're going to have to come and get me out of this pit, or I'm not going to make it. So it's like we have to be vulnerable with God. And that's what I'm learning through this season of caregiving. It's like you just got to tell him, like, don't hold back. He already knows, but he still wants to hear from you.
Yes, yes. I agree with you on that part also. I think we've when you read in the Bible, people just talking to God just like how you and I are having a discussion, you know. But nowadays we put God all the way up, like he can't hear us, and we have to say the thou, and
Mm-hmm.
make it a long drawn out thing with so
Yes.
many unnecessary words that you do. But as you correctly say, you can just say, God, I can't manage this. Just help me. Just help me. Simple words like that just help me, you know, because a lot of people don't believe in angels, but I do believe in angels. Angels are here to help us. They are here to assist us with certain things that they can do on earth for us. We're not supposed to worship them. That's not their role, but they are part of of assisting us on our journey here and whatever God has given us to do. All of us are born. All of us come here with a mission, a purpose. All of us. Don't care how simple a person look. All of us have a mission and a purpose that we came with. So
Yes.
I believe that strongly, and I think the angels are here to assist us because in the Bible that if you look in the Bible, they play a significant role, especially with delivering news, of things that are going to be critical in people's life, turning points in people's life. They're always there, you know,
Yes.
bringing it. It's just that we become so commercialized. We we have so many different noise around us. We're not hearing anything anymore. We're not hearing the voice. We're not hearing nobody talking to us anymore. Because we have all these things distracting us. But as you correctly say, yes, we can just cry out to God. And that's what he likes. He likes us in our brokenness. In our brokenness, that's where God wants us, in our brokenness. And he will repair us from that time. I there was I can't remember the name of of the the article, but there was an article um about how Japanese in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
the senior citizens, what they do if a vase is broken, they fix it by using gold
Mm-hmm.
and seal it. And sometimes the first time I listened to that, I said, "Oh my gosh, that's what God do to us in our brokenness. He
Yes.
puts us back together and become priceless with all those gold fillings that are there around us."
Right.
Yes, that was very important. So how can you create a balance between your personal life, because you're a young woman, you have your career, and suppose you had a career in mind that you basically put on hold to do your caregiving role. So how do you create a balance between what you're doing, the caregiving, and your personal aspirations, things that you aspire to? How do you cope with that?
Well, I think that the most important thing is to communicate with whoever is helping you. So, me and my mom, we're a team. So, if I need to do something like what we're doing right now, I'll just tell her, "Hey, I need this hour to do this." So, don't burst in here, or you have to create those boundaries of time and just communicate with the people in your life. Hey, I'm doing this. Could you give me a little space here to do this, and just let each other know what's going on, and that's key. And just for my own self, I just have to make a choice that, hey, this is important to me, so I have to set aside time and be committed to doing some of the things that I want to do. And like you said earlier, putting my life on hold. Yes, in a way, it may feel like that to the vast majority of people that think about caregiving, but I still have to keep going. Like, it's not like life pauses and stops and waits for me while I'm doing this. So I'm still trying to find my way. And it's part of, like, the thing that was really God's grace is, like, I didn't necessarily get to even really embark on a type of career before all this stuff started happening, because um he really started getting sick like around 2012. He had like these mini strokes, started having these mini strokes and stuff. So I had went to nursing school, but I didn't really get to complete that because of different things. And I'm like, well, God knows what's best, because he sent me there to learn about that. And whatever I learned there, I'm still using today. I didn't forget all of those things that I learned in nursing school. So he knows what's best. And I decided, like, you know what? This is my time to have a second act. That's what this means. When God puts you into a different season, it gives you a chance. It does give you a pause in effect in terms of what you feel like is important in terms of your aspirations. So I got to say, hey, let's try this blogging and podcasting thing. Let's really go into that. Let's lean into that. Whereas I couldn't do that if this didn't happen. So there was a blessing even in the burden that some people might think that caregiving is. There's blessings packed into
Yes, there's blessings in the crumbs.
it.
Blessings in the
Yeah.
crumbs. Yeah.
Yes.
So you sort of touched on it a little bit. How do you,
Mm-hmm.
in regard to communicating in order to better support the care, how you and the other caregivers communicate to support the person you're taking care of? You sort of touched on it. So do you have a schedule? Do you take turns taking him to the hospital, to the doctor? How does that work?
Well, pretty much my mom is the primary person that takes care of him, but when she's ready to go to bed, I'll take over and do some things that need to be done overnight, and there we trade off, so like for instance today I was like, before I got on here, I had she showed me because we just starting to learn how to do this trach care. So I had to take care of his trach. I
Mm-hmm.
gave him his medicine and his feeding tube, and I also did some mouth care. And so there's always a lot, and then you have to document, and schedules. Let's just say that they don't really exist as a caregiver because there's a certain kind of structure. Like every 3 hours, you might have to give them some water or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
other things, it's like you never know what's going to happen, so you have to be flexible enough to pivot and say, "Hey, okay, we're doing this now." Or you
Mm-hmm.
just kind of you're going with the flow as the day moves along. You're figuring
Mm-hmm.
out how things are going to go. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you have a plan, but it's not structured by any means because you can't even account for how things are going to play out in a day. You might be tired, so you'll start later, or you might start earlier. And like last night, we got to end incredibly early because we're starting to pick up the speed of the feed because you had to gradually get the speed of the feed back up when you get back home to so you don't like jostle the person's digestive system. So
Right.
it's all a delicate thing. Like it's a dance. I won't even call it a balance because I think that's a myth too. If people would
Mm-hmm.
try to say balance, it's
Mm-hmm.
not possible because something's always going to drop, and it's not realistic. So you just got to kind of move in a
Right.
direction that God is allowing the day to go. So I like to say, God, help me to hold my plans loosely, and embrace
Mm-hmm.
what you have for the day. Because he
Mm-hmm.
he gonna make you laugh. That's one thing he gonna do. You gonna plan? He gonna be like, oh no, you ain't doing that.
I always
So
tell people that God has a sense of humor. Sometimes some things happen and I just have to laugh. I say, oh God, you really have a sense of humor.
yes, you have to really hold on to that laugh to keep from crying because
Yeah,
yeah, you
yeah,
gotta have a
yeah.
sense of humor in this whole type of caregiving atmosphere. You
Mm-hmm.
do.
Caregiver burnout. I know
Mhm.
that a lot of churches do this, like when you have situations where you have persons being caretakers for persons who are ill, that the church come together, like a particular group of women come together, and they
Mhm.
take over the functions for that caregiver for a night that that they can go out and go out to dinner or go to the
Mhm.
movie or do something, for themselves just to get a little break. And
Mhm.
likewise, persons who have children, small children, sometimes the church, what they do, they put on for lack of a better word, a movie night, and
Mhm.
the kids come and they have popcorn and they have, little treats for them, and
Mhm.
and the parents are allowed to go out and have a date night.
Mhm.
So how do you manage not to get burned out? What do you do to prevent burnout?
It's so funny that you just asked that. Like, this is another instance of, God just like, he just shakes up everything that you're thinking. So, we were settled in, everything was good at home. But about a month ago, he had another stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to reconfigure what we thought was going to happen because he had to go and be somewhere for a month. And he had to be at a hospital, and he had to go to like a rehab facility. So we had to figure out what we were going to do. And then we got a chance to have that respite. So that's beautiful, that what you were mentioning about those places. But that is not something that I have encountered in my neck of the woods, that's happening. But in the meantime, if we can, well, we might have a nurse come sit with him. But it's very rare that people will do something for one day. They want you to like do it over a long period of time, and depending on the type of insurance that people have out there, that you might be able to have that private duty nurse and have that nurse come and check on him several times a week, for like a half an hour to come in and just take his vitals and help you change a
Mm-hmm.
baby or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not anything extensive. So as far as burnout is concerned, it's really just up to you as the caretakers to be like, hey, let's go lay down, let's go to sleep, because everything cannot be done today. Some things gonna have to fall by the wayside because you have to go to sleep at some point, or you can't take care of the person. You gotta go to sleep, you gotta eat. So I made sure I ate my dinner before I got over here. You have to go to sleep. So it's like, you struggle with it, but some people don't have that advantage that you were talking about of having that huge support system like that. That's beautiful, but that's not everybody's story. So just to shed some light on that.
Yeah, yeah. But sometimes churches don't think about it. So probably when they hear this podcast, they might say, that's a good idea. We could probably do
Yeah.
this to help the caregivers. Give them a chance to go out and, just breathe a little, take breathe a little and smell the roses, or just look, what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah, we were so blessed to be able to have a chance to have respite. Like we got a month off. So me and my mom, we took the time to make sure we took our mom and daughter time. So it was
Mm-hmm.
beautiful to be able to do that. And now we're refreshed. We can get
Right,
back into the groove of things and figure out
right.
this new normal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a blessing when you can have it. Just appreciate it when you can, if you don't have access to that constant respite.
Right, 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 right. The other question I had was, what are some of the practical ways to show appreciation for caregivers? How do you show appreciation for your mom, and how does your mom show appreciation for you in your own little ways?
I think that one of the big ways we show each other we love each other is we buy each other food. We buy each other something to eat, or just saying, "Hey, I'm going to do these certain things," and you just go to bed like telling the person, reminding the person to take
Mm-hmm.
care of themselves. That's a big part of it, because sometimes you'll just do and do and do and give and give and give as a nurturer, as women. We just do that innately. No one has to teach us how to do this. We just go and go and go. But you have to say, hey, go over there and sit down, like go to bed, like I'll do this stuff and whatever. And just it's really cultivating a servant's heart in me to have to just learn how to do that. When you have to take care of somebody, you're learning that skill of service, like learning how to
Service,
serve
yes.
selflessly,
Yes,
you know.
that is so true. It's really a servant's heart. You have to have a servant's heart, because you're going to be doing all kind of things that that you that you don't normally do, for some intimate things, bathroom stuff, and you know what I mean.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
All of the liquids
all
are
this
going
stuff.
to be in place. So you
Yeah.
can't be like too antsy. That's
Mm-mm.
one thing. I'll be like, okay, all right, this is what it is. I love you, so I have to do it. And as
Yeah.
far as I know you were saying about how do we as fellow caregivers show appreciation, but I think that the public at large, people that know caregivers, there also needs to be more of appreciation for them, for those, from those people, because I think that a lot of times it can be lonely. So you need somebody to say, hey, send a text, pay, do a phone call, or drop some food off, or just say, hey, can I sit with that person for an
Mm-hmm.
hour? And no one is saying it has to be this grandiose activity, right? But you can
Mm-hmm.
just come and offer to be there, show up. That's the biggest thing. And a lot of times, like I was telling you the other day, it can be this thing where people forget you because you're caregiving and you're kind of in isolation in your own little bubble of life, and your family and your friends and people, some people don't know what to do. So that's true too. They don't know what to do. So those are some suggestions.
Yes, yeah. I agree with you because I remember when I was taking care of my husband, I, I had to get someone, to get my hair done. I had to ask someone to come and sit with him to go and do something basic as getting my hair done. Normally, I would
Yes.
just go and get my hair done and my nails done and stuff like that. But I had to be dependent on somebody sitting with him until I get back. So, I can understand, But I had support. I had some of my friends that were living nearby. They would come and help me, with little
That's
things here and there.
beautiful.
But as you say, it can be lonely because you're no longer in the social circle. Nobody invites you to go see a play. Nobody invites you to see a movie.
Not at
Nobody,
all.
nobody invites you for anything because you're always not available. So they just don't want to make you feel bad. So I'm supposed to just until all of a sudden you're by yourself, as you're coming.
Right.
So, so as you say, it's lonely. It's a lonely period too. So that is where faith come in. How has faith helped you through the different stages of dealing with your dad? How has faith, any particular thing that you can think of that you could share with us in regard to how faith has helped?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right now what comes to mind very vividly is that I remember in those first few weeks and
Mm-hmm.
months when he first got sick, like in this major way, because 7 years ago in August he got hit by a car. So when that happened, I was still working, and when like I would go to work, I was kind of like anxious and I was kind of tearful. And what I would do, I started getting going to the I went to the dollar store and I got these little, you know how they have those pads that's like grocery lists. I would
Mm-hmm.
take that and I would write what I call a sanity letter. And
Okay.
I would write scriptures, I would write mantras on there and just kind of look at that all day to encourage myself. And throughout the week, I would put different names of God on there. I would like change up the translation of that scripture. I would look at that same scripture and then I would just be scribbling things. And then I just remember one day I wrote 2 Timothy 1:7 on there. But I was at work. I was just like 2 Timothy 1:7. I wrote it on paper. And then somebody came in my line and they brought me a bracelet that said 2 Timothy 1:7. And it said
Oh
no
my
more fear.
gosh.
Yes, it said no more fear in 2 Timothy 1:7. She had it on. She took it off and
Confirmation.
gave it to me. And she said, it's okay, I have
Confirmation.
more.
Confirmation.
Yes, and so when
Yes.
that happened, I was like, okay, God, you hear me. You speak through people, you speak through circumstances. And he felt so close in that moment when that happened because it was like, what's the odds of that? She gonna have that
Yeah.
exact verse and get in my line. And at that day, at that time
Yes.
when I was
Yes.
there. So that's why I say from that point, it just felt like I got closer. And then after everything started happening with him, I had no choice. I had to cling. Clinging to God was the only choice that I had because everything else that you could try to cling to is not going to be sufficient. It's not going to satisfy you. It's not going to fulfill you. People are going to let you down. So you just have to
Good.
understand that God is your all in all.
Yes. 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 As I said before, you find God in your brokenness, in your time of, I can't do anything more. I'm exhausted. I just hand it all to you. Situations. That's where you find God. That's where you
Yes.
find God, and know Him, and get to know Him intimately.
Yes, and I think that's the key. Like you have to like know like you it's one thing to know about him, but it's another thing to know him.
Know
And I
Him.
feel like that's something that I'm really concentrating on in this season. It's like, hey, let me just read and just take the time to just take my time and read through a lot of these, different chapters and things, to pay attention to what I notice about God. Cause I've been reading this plan, and the point of the plan is you have to look for the God shot in everything that you're reading. So where did you see God show up? Like what was his character like in this moment? Like what was on display about him? And so that's something that plan has really helped me. It's called the Bible recap. And it's something that's really helped me to really hone in on what is going on with God in this chapter. What is he saying? Because if you really pay attention, like especially in Isaiah, oh my goodness, I've been reading Isaiah, and it's been like Redeemer, Holy One, the King, the Savior, the Deliverer. It's telling you all these different things about God, but you have to really like take the time to listen to what is there, you know?
But you know what? I notice sometimes, well, to me, the Bible isn't just a book. It is it is living, it is breathing, it's spiritual. So sometimes I read one thing, one particular verse,
Mm-hmm.
and it means something to me, one thing, and I read it again. I'm going to a different situation, I read it, and it speaks to me in a different way.
Yes.
So sometimes, it depends on what you're going through. And as I said, the Bible is a spiritual, it's spiritual. It speaks to you. It speaks to you depending on what you're searching for at that particular
Right.
time. Yes, because
Right, because
as
one scripture could, like you say, it's like a compounding thing.
mhm,
When you first encounter that scripture, it's one thing, and then as you progress, it means something else, and you revisit it, and it means
right,
something else. It's like more
right.
more meaning is continually added to that one
Yes,
word.
yes. Because your spiritual knowledge is expanding, and you're seeing through things, not through your physical eye but through your spiritual eyes, and that is where the revelation comes through, as Oprah said, the moment.
Yes, you're like yes. It's just,
Yeah,
whew, I call them epiphanies because stuff just
yeah.
comes to me like, oh, I never considered that. Look at that.
Right. Yes, 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 yes. So a lot of that has happened to me also as in my journey, and you know and even people, sometimes people tell you things, and all of a sudden just something come to your mind, and God say, and I don't know, well, a thought comes to your mind, and you say, okay, the thought is saying, this person is have ulterior motive, don't listen to them. And sometimes at the end of the day, the person had some ulterior motive for truth. It's just that we are not conscious of it. But as you cling to God, as you cling to your maker, and as you start to have an intimate relationship with him, he will disclose things and show you things in people that you didn't even know. He will.
Right. Right, he's
Yeah.
gonna reveal it all. He's gonna uncover it all, lay it all bare. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like we gotta trust him to be that lie detector.
yeah,
He's gonna
yeah,
just let it all hang out. Like he's
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
tell you.
yeah. So what are the, well, you sort of touched on it. You said that you journal, just journaling and all that, because I was gonna ask you, what are the practical help you use to deepen your spiritual connection with God? I
Hmm.
remember you said journaling,
Yes, I like the prayer
affirmations.
journal. Hmm.
You write some affirmations. Anything else?
Yeah, I love to prayer journal because it helps me to articulate my thoughts better. Because sometimes you can't necessarily say it out loud, but you can write it. So that's been really helpful. I like to do the verse of the day in the Bible app along with the guided prayer. Read the plans. I have like certain blogs I like to read, like Proverbs 31. That's a good blog to read.
Mhm, mhm,
And like just put on some gospel music and have a little jam session while you get ready. I call it worship snacks. Like take little pockets throughout the day and come back to
mhm,
God because once
mhm.
is not enough. In the season
No,
that I'm in, once is not enough. I can't just say, oh, let me just read this little verse. I gotta keep coming back throughout the day. It's like you gotta refuel yourself.
kill yourself.
And so that's what I've been learning to do is just have those little moments with God, keep coming back. And just be also give myself grace because sometimes you can be hard on yourself. Be like, oh, I didn't read 5 chapters today. It doesn't
Yeah.
make you a bad Christian. It makes you human. If you can't accomplish everything that you want to accomplish, and sometimes we get into that trap too, of legalism, trying to be perfect. We have to realize, okay, if you read one verse, God is delighted. You read that verse today. You sang a song and you had a song in your heart. You sang that to God. You know,
Right.
you help somebody. It's a lifestyle. It's not just the things that you do, but it's how you live, how
Yes,
you move
yes.
through life too. So that's what I'm learning. We gotta give ourselves grace because he's like, listen, I know you're not perfect. I'm not surprised by this. I knew this was gonna happen today. You'll be all
Yeah.
right. Get back on the horse tomorrow.
Yes. That's right. That's it. But that is why he gave us our daily bread. He didn't give us
Yes,
a loaf
one
of
day's
bread.
grace at a time.
Yes. And this grace at a time. So what are the common misconceptions about faith that you wish to address?
There is so much to unpack in it, but I know we only have so much time. But just some of the main things is that people have this certain perception of God in terms of him being this tyrant in the sky, just like brooding. But he's kind and he's loving and forgiving, redeeming. He provides. You know, he has grace even when he should just smite us. He's like, no, I'm gonna try again. You know, it's just so many different things like that. And just about prayer, people think, like you were saying earlier, it has to be this long, drawn out, eloquent thing. But it tells us in Matthew 6, no, that doesn't mean he's going to hear you more because you babbling on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just so many different things about just everything, like that you have to only stay in your circle with people that know God. But it's like, if you over here, how's everybody else gonna know God or know about him? And just like learning about how to move through life and not be like a pharisaical person. That I think that's a big deal. Like don't be like a hypocrite. Don't be like so like set in your ways, like that you're not open to learning about things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And some people
Mm-hmm.
are just so close-minded, and you
Yeah,
have
that's
to be
true.
like, listen, like, oh, okay, be humble enough to say, hey, okay, maybe I could consider something else when it comes to this type of thing. Like, I don't know if you understand what I meant, but I'm
Yeah,
just
I understand. I understand it. As you correctly say, if you read the Bible, Jesus wasn't among any godly people. He made sure he mixed up with the ones who are
yes.
ladies of the night, things
Prostitutes,
of
tax
the night.
collectors, drunks, leprous people who nobody wanted to hang around. He was
Exactly.
with all kinds of folks, but he
All
said, I
kind of
didn't come for
folks.
the people that was well. I came for the sick.
It gave, yes,
And that's sin
absolutely.
sickness. You know, that's one
Yes,
of the things.
yes. But sometimes some of the churches have that same sort of mindset. It's like it's not a church. It's like a what you call it there? Like one of those country clubs. So
Right.
when people come in who aren't like them, or of the same sort of society that they have inside there,
Mm-hmm.
the people them feel uncomfortable and they don't want to come back there.
Right. We're
So
supposed to be
the, the,
hospitable.
the churches are like that too. They have the little groups, the little thing, and they don't,
Clicks.
yes, and they don't embrace the people who come in. And I always tell people, yes, some the thing about it, when somebody is saved, it takes a
Mm-hmm.
little while. They don't save. I mean, okay, suppose somebody come into church and they have on a mini dress.
Right.
Okay. Oh, but that's
They're
all
not
they
gonna
have.
just
That's
they're
all
not
they
just
have
gonna go
to
out
do
there in the
because
next
they used
minute.
to go to, yeah, they used to go to the club, but they want to go to church. The better them come in the mini dress than don't come church none at all.
Okay.
That don't
Come
make them
on
feel
now.
uncomfortable. After a while, they see everybody dressed. They will, when they get money, they will buy clothes, that suits the occasion. But let them come. Let them come, you know what I mean? Don't let them feel
Yes.
uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's the main thing is the welcoming feeling that you want when you come somewhere like, okay, well, I didn't grow up like you. I didn't learn these specific things that you're learning, but can you welcome me? Can you receive me?
right.
Can you help me along the way? Can you be patient? Can you be gentle? Can you respect me? Anyway,
Right.
even though I'm different, because we that's what makes us beautiful is that we're different. It does we everybody can't be the same. He didn't want a bunch of robots. He wanted everybody to be unique. And that's why he says, you know, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You're intricately crafted. You're fashioned. God took time with each of us. It wasn't just like some factory, thing, conveyor belt. You just stamp, stamp, put a
Right,
stamp on us
right,
all the
right,
same.
right.
We
Yes,
all have different gifts for different reasons. That's why we're different. It's not a
yes,
crime to be different,
yes, yes, yes. And I get sad about it when people, say things about the church like that, that the people aren't welcoming, the people aren't, I feel bad about it because that the thing about it is that the person is not going to be wanting to hear anything about church anymore. They're not going to want to hear anything about
Right.
Christ anymore because how they were treated when they came to church.
Right.
So
You
that
want to
is
be
where one
like,
of the things are.
oh, this is what it is. Okay. Cause
Yeah,
then that's another thing. Word of mouth. They gonna go out and tell everybody else like, oh, that's why I don't do this,
yeah.
because it's like that impression really matters. Like, how am I being received when I go into a space if I'm not like everybody else? If I didn't grow up going to church every Sunday, if I didn't grow up reading the Bible or grow up in this particular denomination, how are you going to receive me? Can you see me? See, past everything that you think about me and the preconceived notions. Can you see my humanity?
But even in the work environment also, sometimes we hear that somebody say, oh, that person is supposed, and I'm like, what? And the one of the worst tyrant in the in the workplace.
Right. And so
Come
that's what
on.
makes people be like, no, I don't want to
No,
follow
I
that
don't think
lifestyle
so.
because this is how you're acting. So everything we do is like a commercial for God, basically.
Yes, yes, yes. We're supposed to be his hands and feet and his eyes and everything here on earth, and it, and we're basically living in the last days now. So we as soldiers, we need to get cracking. We need souls out there that needs to be saved. So we have to, some people have to come off them high horse and go out there and do what God, the commission that God gave all of us. That's the commission. We need to go out
Yeah.
there and do the commission that God left us.
Yeah,
So,
it takes humility. It does. It definitely
mhm.
does.
So what are some of the common, oh, we did that one already. How do you maintain healthy and meaningful relationship? You're a young woman and you're very attractive young woman. How do you maintain relationship?
See, this is another, I think this goes into the category of caregiving misconceptions because a lot of times when it comes to being a caregiver, you're not going to find a lot of people that can be understanding of that. And one of the hurdles that I encounter is that sometimes if that guy has not had a father figure, they don't understand. It's like some people don't know like what that means and what that requires, what that entails, and then they just have these expectations of you that are unrealistic as far as your time is concerned, and so you just kind of say, I'm not going to even go venture
Mhm,
into that if I know this is how I'm going to be received. So you have to have the patience to just say, hey, you know what, maybe this is a season where I just have friends, I cultivate that. um
mhm,
I just make sure that my relationship with my family is solid, and the people that are in my life, I appreciate those people because some people, like, they will not really like show up in these type of seasons. Like, some people can't handle that, the heaviness of somebody being sick, and you have
yes.
to share about that. It's like they just kind of shrink back, and it's
Mhm,
like they don't want to, they can't, some people just don't have the capacity, so it's not something that they can control. But it's like, oh, okay, this is the case. If you can't handle that, then how are we going to have a relationship? So for me, healthy relationships is like about defining it. What are you
mhm,
expecting from these relationships in your life? And so that's what I had to learn personally. And so I don't want nobody to think, I'm an expert or anything like that. I just like to share what I learned. So what I've experienced is that you have to really discern. Take the time to discern what is that person's role. What are they willing to play? Like, what role are they willing to play in your life? Because some people will show you if you allow them. You just tell them something and see how they react. Like, say, oh, my father is in the hospital, and if you get a thumbs up, that's probably not going to be your best friend or somebody that you can really have something with, because that person just showed you.
Yeah.
Like Maya Angelou said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first
Believe
time.
them. Believe
So
them.
we can't just allow ourselves to be rattled by some of those situations. We have to just say, hey, that person can't handle that. They've defined it. I didn't even have to do any of the work. They defined it for me. So I'm learning that that's what healthy relationships require: the boundaries and the communication. Just try to understand, get an understanding of what they can handle, and just, that's it. Like, you gotta communicate and have boundaries.
Well, I've known a particular case where the person was married and the husband the person had cancer
Mm-hmm.
and breast cancer, and the husband just couldn't deal with it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
so
horrible. I heard that when
yes,
I was
it's
watching
horrible.
Dear Future Wifey. It's a podcast, and he said that happened to somebody. Somebody was talking about when there was a panel discussion. They were like, "Oh, the person just left," and I was like, "That's
Yeah,
horrible." And so, like, that's the thing. When times are good, that's when you learn. Okay, you can learn from whatever they're doing in other situations, how they're going to treat you. So if they can't handle what I'm saying about somebody else, how is they going to handle it if I decide to marry them and then I get
yeah,
sick?
yeah. Yeah, the person just, they just couldn't. I mean, breast surgery and all, although can do reconstruction, but the journey is hard. The journey is hard. Sometimes the person,
Yeah.
just don't feel good today.
It's
The
not for the
medication
faint of the
that
heart.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, yeah, it's interesting. It can be interesting, but we could go on for hours and hours and
Yeah.
talking. But I know that I know that you have other things that you need to do, and I really appreciate you coming. What a conversation we have today. It's full of
Yes.
wisdom, full of heart, full of real talk.
Yes. And just before we get
Yes,
out of here, I just like to say, if you got a loved one, my loved one in particular is a stroke survivor. So if you got a loved one that has AFib, which is a type of arrhythmia, a heart problem, make sure that you get them checked out, because that could be a cause for a stroke. So just make sure that you are aware of that, and just check on your caregivers out there. If you know somebody that's a caregiver, take the time to check on them. Text them, call them, drop some food off. Just love on each other. Make everybody
yeah.
feel seen, loved, and heard.
Yes. That's a good closing point, right? So remember, folks, in blessing others, we often find ourselves blessed in return. Amber, thank you for sharing your light with us today. And could you give me if persons want to contact you or anything like that, could you give me my list to
Yes.
get in touch with you?
Yes. You can find me at B Channel 27 on Instagram and so many other places: Pinterest, TikTok, so many other places.
All right. So thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.